This video is a continuation of the graphical method. Even though I don't require you to draw any graphs in regards to your homework, we talked about how you would do uh, problems 13.3 and 13.4 in the earlier video. These are the two homework problems that were assigned to you. Basically, it's just laying out the data and making sure you could calculate the extra cost. We don't have to calculate the cost of the actual production. They just want to look at the extra costs associated with each strategy. And so look at the earlier video in regards to 13.3 and 13.4. In this one, I'm actually going to do 13.5, 13.6, and complete them entirely. These are different strategies, and so they'll be analyzed a little bit differently than the ones assigned to you on your homework. In 13.5, strategy C or plan C is to keep a stable workforce. They want that workforce to be the average, and so what I did is I calculated the average down here. You'll see the average for the demand from January through August. The average is 1,775, and so that's what we're going to use as our production rate. And so obviously we're going to build up a certain amount of inventory here, but even with that inventory we do have the threat of stockouts. So remember that holding costs are $20 per unit. You do have a beginning inventory, and so we will add to that and then calculate out the cost of those. And if we do not have enough in inventory or production, then we'll count a stock out, and it's $100 per unit. So let's go ahead and do this in January. So if we produce 1,775, we're actually going to have 375 more than we need for the demand of 1,400. Plus, remember, we have the 200, so this becomes 575. The extra cost associated with that is going to be the $20 per unit. So 575 extra units in January, we'll pay $20. So let's go on. In February, we're going to add another, it looks like another 175. That puts us up to 750 in inventory now. So we add the extra because we only have a demand of 1,600, but we are producing 1,775. So that's 175 plus the 575 we had in inventory in January. So we're now up to 750. Once again, I'm just going to copy down the formula. We'll double check to make sure it's doing right. This amount, 750 in inventory times the $20. Oops, we don't have, I needed to lock it on the $20. Let's absolute that so that when I copy it down in the future, it won't move on me. I forgot about that. We'll go back and double check the earlier one. I believe I have that right. It just happened to, yeah, because I didn't lock it, I didn't absolute it. When I copy it down, it did move down, but that one's correct. So we're up to 750 for the next month. Now here we actually are a little bit short in regards to our production. We're about 25 units short, and so we're going to take that out of inventory. We'll be down to 725, and once again we can calculate the cost of that. We're also short 25 units again, so now we're down to 700 in inventory and the cost associated with that. Here now we are 225, 425, so we're going to be down to 275 in inventory here. Once again, the demand is 2,200. We're producing an average, or the 1,775. So we were short 400 and 25 units, and so we took that out of inventory, and that reduced our inventory to 275. So not as much a holding cost in May, but we are reducing this inventory. Here now we go down to 0 inventory. We use up all of our inventory, but we're still going to be short because we actually need we need 425, and so we got 275. So this is going to be 0 now inventory, and we're going to go over here and have to look at stock out costs. Stock out costs are going to be 150 times 100 in regards to stock out cost. In July, 175. We're still we have no inventory, so of course that's 0. Here we're going to have stock out costs for the 25 units we are short. And then we'll start building up inventory again here. It looks like in August we'll build up inventory of 375 because we're producing 1,775 at the demand. So once again we'll have some inventory. Let's make sure this is correct. Yeah, it's doing it correctly. So now it's just a matter of summing up these two columns equals sum. We'll sum that up. And equals sum, sum, and sum up this column for any stock outs. And these together, then the holding cost and the stock out cost, those will be our extra costs. So the cost of this plan, $85,500. Out of the ones we've looked at so far, you're going to calculate the cost, the total extra cost for 13.3 and 13.4. You see if you compare these three plans, this one is the cheapest at $85,500. Let's go on and do 13.6. 13.6 is an interesting one in that it allows you to use inventory or overtime and then to build up some inventory. And so we're going to produce at 1,600. One thing that we need to be aware of, they say that they're only going to allow us 1,600 stable production, and 20% of that can be overtime. So let's go ahead and calculate that. The production of 1,600, they're allowing us to do 20% of that in overtime. So we can produce another 320 units in overtime. We do need to know the cost. It's $50 in overtime for those units. And so let's go through and figure this out here. So we're going to build up some inventory. So remember, we had beginning inventory of 200. We have an extra 200 here, so now we're up to 400 in inventory. And so once again, we can calculate the cost. The holding cost of that is this times, and then we can go up here and reference this holding cost again. Let's once again absolute that, just so that when I copy it down, we'll be fine. So we got an extra inventory there at 200, and then we're actually going to continue on here. So in February, we actually we exactly meet the demand, so there's no extra cost there in February. This one we're 200 short So we're going to actually use 200 of our inventory. So let me make sure we're doing this correctly. So the 200 plus the 200, oh, I'm sorry, there is the cost. I forgot about this. So we had the beginning inventory and we added 200 extra in January because we produced 200 more than we needed. This one, we did produce what we needed, but you still have the 400 in inventory because you didn't use it. And so you still have the cost associated with that. And then in March, we're going to draw this down to 200 because we need 200 of that inventory. And so we'll only have 200 in inventory in regards to that. And then we're going to use up that inventory. So in April, there's no cost because we'll use up this inventory. So there's no holding cost. We produced 1,600, so there's no cost in April. Now in May, here's where we have to suddenly look at this. We're going to have to produce, we have 1,600, but that leaves us 600 short. We can only do 320, so 320 times the $50 overtime. So we still are going to have a stock out here because we're 280 short. So 280 times the stock out, which is $100. So we have that cost associated. In June, once again, same idea. 320, we're short. Again, we're only producing 1,600, so we're 600 short. We can get 320 through overtime. That's times the $50. But we're going to have, once again, this 280 in stock out. 280 times the 100. So July, we're not quite as in bad a shape here. We can get the 200 extra we need through overtime. And in August, we're actually going to build up some inventory here. Once again, 200, and this is be the this times the holding cost, which back up here is $20. So now we can add these up. So you have the sum total of the overtime, if there was any overtime. You have the sum total of the inventory carrying cost for those months that we carried inventory, and then we have a couple months where we had stock out costs, and so we have the stock out costs. Well, let's copy it all the way down. There we go. Oops. Let's go back and do that again. So this is all of those costs. Need to make sure that I did this correctly. Yes, okay. So we have then these three costs, this, the overtime, the holding cost, and the stock out. So this strategy is $122,000 extra cost. Now, one thing you may have noticed, we could have probably worked a little bit of overtime ahead of time and built up a little bit more inventory to reduce stack out costs. And that's a variation of the graphical method. There's just endless amounts of strategies that you could analyze and do. Now, I'm not going to do the second one. They have another plan where they look at subcontractors. So once again, you may build up a little inventory, but when that inventory is gone, then you just use subcontractors. And so that's the final plan. But that's really the drawback of the graphical method. You're only evaluating the plans that you can think of.